What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be going through some of the most popular dungeons of Wizard101 that people use to farm for gear. Now, we're going to talk about some of the worst, the bad, the ugly, and some of the best ones that you should not miss when you're starting a brand new wizard. Wow, how is my wizard not burning his feet off? Obviously, even though stats are a certain number that you guys can see, they're a statistic, these are still my personal opinions. So if you disagree, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And let's start with the best gear to farm, which is Dragoon Gear. I'm kidding. Dragoon Gear is absolutely awful. Now, it used to be the meta. If you remember about 5 or 6 years ago, Dragoon Gear used to be one that everybody was farming, but it just hasn't held up very well. The drop rates are absolutely abysmal. The bosses aren't easy. And yeah, there's like strategies for it with this guy over here, King Detritus or whatever his name is, but you can get better gear pretty much in the bazaar at this point than Dragoon Gear once you start leveling up after 130. People got really tired of going through the dungeon over and over and over and only getting a little bit of the alchemical extract and then finally crafting it for the crystals, realizing that you just got a crystal the next run, so you wasted your time. You have to go get 180 more. My god, I'm remembering the struggles that I had with it, and I didn't like it very much. But this list is not just my opinion on if I like a dungeon or not. It's literally pretty much useless nowadays. The set bonus is decent, but the new gear that you can get in later levels is obviously going to give you more stats, so there's no reason to really farm it anymore. So like I said in the intro, I'm only choosing a couple dungeons of farmable gear, just some of the most popular. And of course, Malistare is one that has recently gotten a revamp. And while it is better than it used to be, it's still not great for its level. Now, obviously, it's a massive upgrade over the level 30 gear that you get from Zeus. Clearly, it's 20 levels higher. But there's a couple dungeons that you'll see later in this video that you unlock 10 levels later. Celestia is not that hard of a world. Get through Celestia, and you can have the opportunity to get much better gear that outclasses it in every single way. Now, it is craftable, so you can get it after enough runs, but the Great Spire takes a long time to go through. It's not a really quick dungeon. You know, you can cheese it if you have like 4 people, but when I soloed it on my balance, when I did my level lock playthrough earlier today, it took a good hour and a half to get through. If you don't have any friends, or at least anybody that's on right now, you might have a long time. I'd say this is still better than Dragoon because it's still decent gear, like the stats are pretty solid, but it gets outclassed pretty soon after, and it might take a while to get it if you don't have anybody else. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to gear that's pretty good, but should you even get it? I'm sure you guys saw it coming. I have a pretty divisive opinion that Aquila is gear that, while it's okay, it should never be farmed. Get it for the XP and dip. Because here's the deal. I used primarily Bazaar gear on my balanced level lock solo playthrough until I beat Malistare. And I didn't have as much struggle. I mean, yeah, I had to use some treasure cards. It was just to go faster. I didn't have as much struggle as I thought I honestly would. Now, I did have the Senator's Robe, but the Senator's Robe is really comparable to almost anything you can get in the Bazaar. And it's just a big waste of time. We have to stay on Zeus for just a second because if you're level 30, you know, you should obviously run it once because you get the Spear, which is really good. And the Spear gives plus 10% damage and a power pip. And obviously that's the best one that you'll get probably until about level 120. So it's a really good one to have and one that you should definitely go and run and get. But when it comes to farming Zeus for the gear over and over, I still say no. Now, I know that they did add the option to craft it after you beat Zeus 35 times, but at the same time, like I said, it doesn't give any universal resist. The power pip chance is low. The health is about the same as the Bazaar. I just personally think that there's a lot better that you can do, and even if it's not better than what's currently in the Bazaar, you can find something that's at least half as good that will last you and will be okay. And my balanced playthrough is literally living proof of that. But now we have to talk about Atlantea, and Atlantea is a very interesting dungeon because it sucks! So the reason that I didn't put it at the very bottom is because the gear is not. But Atlantea, honestly, the only reason I have it here is you kind of have to do it to get to Tartarus, I'm pretty sure. So just go ahead and get it done the one time and be over it. Now, Tartarus, on the other hand, the gear is probably the best of the 3 for its level because Azteca is a struggle. It's my favorite world, I can say that. However, is the gear really worth it? Well, no. You can get through just fine without it, and once you get to level 100, you're going to get a massive upgrade. We'll get to that in a little bit. Tartarus is fine. Like, the gear is decent, but the drop rates are incredibly low, and it's the same deal as having to do it over and over like the Zeus Gear. For the amount of time that you spend farming it, you can probably just get to level 100. So it's one of those situations where, like, if you really want to, you can farm it just to make Azteca a little bit easier. But if you want to wait until Chrysalis and you're halfway through Chrysalis to go ahead and get that Darkmoor Gear, you're probably better suited to do that. The time that it takes you to farm everything here is probably going to outweigh any time that it takes to quest. Also, I probably should have said this in the intro, but just to make it clear, I'm not going to include any raid gear. Obviously, raid gear is pretty good. I just hate raiding, and I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But anyway, now we are in the gear that is slightly worse than the best cream of the crop, and that is the Wintertusk Crafted Gear. So, Wintertusk Crafted Gear is unlocked at level 56, and it is a very solid set of gear. You know, like I said earlier with the Zeus Gear, you know, you're riding on Bazaar gear only if you're following my guide until level 56, and that's a long time, I get it. but if you craft the gear, it is actually relatively decent. Now, it's a step back from being absolutely superb because there's something that unlocks really soon thereafter that's a little bit better. The stat increases are absolutely phenomenal. You get so much more health, so much more power pip, so much damage, and you can probably hit over 115 damage if you have a decent pet pretty freaking easily if you have that gear. It's not like ridiculously hard to craft, and if you don't want to waste time farming somewhere else and you just want to craft something, you can easily do that. Now, the reason that I'm including it in a video about farming dungeons is just because it kind of precedes a dungeon that is next in this video. And honestly, we should probably get to that because it's better in almost every single way. You guys know what's coming. Here we are in Waterworks. Obviously, Waterworks is better than the Wintertusk gear in almost every way. There are some pieces of the Wintertusk gear that are better than Waterworks, but it is very situational and it does kind of vary per school. For Waterworks, generally though, the rule of thumb is you want the set, you ride that out for the next 40 levels or so. And honestly, you just really can't go wrong. There's reset methods where, you know, if you have 4 people, you can reset the final boss. The dungeon's not entirely that difficult. The cheats are a little bit annoying for somebody that might be new, but it's honestly just not that difficult. There are people that are in team up all the time to do it, so you're not really going to have that much struggle to find somebody to help you on, honestly, probably a full team. But yeah, like, this gear is pretty much, you need it. You either need the Wintertusk gear or you need this gear, or you're gonna have a struggle city in Azteca, and Chrysalis especially. So honestly, Waterworks is one of the best, but it is not an S tier because there's one dungeon that remains that is the best, and if you don't farm for it, what are you doing? Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, real quick, before we get to the number 1, I want to add a quick honorable mention because I feel like there's one gear set that's overlooked quite a bit, and that's what you can get from the Secret Tunnel in Imperia Part 1. It's called the Cabal set, and it's actually pretty solid. Some of the gear is a little bit better than Darkmoor. In some ways, it's a little bit worse, but it's a little bit more offensive focused, and it gives your character a lot more damage. It's not going to be like, you know, the best thing of all time. However, you're still going to find a good bit of people farming it for flying squidding, for crafting quests, or if they just want the set itself. I'm not going to say it's like the best dungeon of all time to farm for, but if you're looking for a slight upgrade from Darkmoor and you're tired of wearing the same clothes, that's a good place to go. But anyway, let's get into number 1. Get it? I'm at the World Darkmoor instead of the Castle Darkmoor. Anyway, obviously number 1 is the Darkmoor Castle dungeon. Now, it is by far your best gear choice for level 100. The drop rates aren't absolutely terrible. They're not great. Not high one. They're not absolutely like astounding, and it might take a few good tries to get it. But take it from me though, I have really bad ADHD and I get distracted super easily. However, I was able to farm for all of them on my wizards. So what I can say is Darkmoor, you pretty much need it. I'd say solidly until about Imperia. Some Imperia gear is better than Darkmoor, and it starts to outclass even some in the Bazaar, like Athames and stuff, start to get a little bit better with the damage. However, for what the dungeon is, it is not that many battles. It's what, 3 dungeons to get an Athame, to get the full Darkmoor set. You could get the wand, but the wand's not as good as Ares' spear because the spear has more damage. However, that gear will carry you and probably help you solo the rest of the time until you get to a dungeon that you probably can't. Like maybe the Storm Titan, but they also made the Storm Titan much easier, so you might still be able to. But of course, all this is just my opinion. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. If you think I'm totally wrong, please let me know, but I think Darkmoor is the de facto best dungeon to farm in the entire game. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I love every single one of you guys. I'm gonna go eat my Domino's pizza. I appreciate all of you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. You guys have a great rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.